Hey guys, this is Christian with MBS Fitness. We're going to go through week 5 of Arnold prep for powerlifting. We're in our triphasic phase of isometrics. We're going to start off just like we do every training session with a bunch of warm-ups. I have really terrible shoulder mobility, so we have banded overhead raises, and right here we have laying swimmers. These are really great for loosening up the shoulders prior to bench day. So today we're doing regular grip incline bench press with an isometric or a pause. Today's prescription is going to be a 3-second pause, and we're going to have chains added with it. So as we warm up, first set of warm-ups is just going to be basic reps going through the range of motion, and then as the weight goes up, I'm going to start working on my pauses. When we do these pauses, we do not want to pause on the chest. We don't ever want the bar to rest on us. The isometric phase is to help us transition from the lowering or eccentric, maintaining our strength, and then transferring it to the concentric. So here's the first set. You can see I'm going to pause right above my chest and try and sustain all of that tension and all of that strength, and then transfer it right after my pause is up. As you can see, when I'm doing the isometrics, I'm trying to keep my lats fired at the whole time through the movement, and I'm trying to keep my elbows in the same position. I really don't want them to flare. Elbow flaring has its place in bench pressing, but again, we are not flat bench pressing right now. We're incline pressing, and I'm trying to keep as strict as form as possible in these movements. Usually when I have elbow issues or whatnot, I tend to flare a little bit more. Pay attention to leg drive. You can still create leg drive when you're on an incline press. Again, we're gonna go to starting our accessory work. We got a 3-block board press. We are doing this close grip. Now, I have a ton of issues with my tricep strength. It's a really big weak point of mine. So you can see when I'm doing these presses that my elbows start to flare out a little bit and I start cheating. That consists day 2. Day 3 is the most intense day I think we have in this training block. It is deadlifts with an isometric pause right below the knees, and we are also going to be adding chains. We're going to have 3 sets of 3 reps to go along with it. We have Tucker here training along with me. He's an elite 165er that's also going to be competing in the Arnold with me. I love when I have other elite lifters. I love coaching them, and I love working along with them because it brings the atmosphere up a little bit. These are some of the last warm-up sets before we get into adding the chains on and getting our working sets in. As you can see, I still have my headphones on, trying to get amped up and ready to add the chains. When we add chains to this and most of our other lifts, because I'm short and stubby, we actually choke up the chains about 6 links. So at the top of the lockout, the majority of the chains are off the ground, and we have the full effect of those chains. What the chains do is it allows us to have less weight when we're on the floor and produce maximal force, and we have to fight that weight the more the chains come off the ground. So the higher you stand up, the more the bar and the weight itself is going to weigh as the links come off the ground. When you take the chains away, this allows you to produce force throughout the whole movement. While we're doing this, we're using straps because honestly right now, with all of this going on, we're not going to be really worried about grip strength. We're worried about our hip position and how we are generating force into the ground, spreading the floor, and just making sure our form is spot on. This is my last warm-up set prior to my 3 working sets. I have an issue with my wrist straps. They're a little too wide for my hand. I have small hands, so I'm going to be using a smaller strap next training cycle. So this is Tucker's first working set. This is also the day after New Year's, so Tucker's just having a rough day in general. He put in a lot of work. You see me over there recording him and coaching him through this lift all at the same time. Struggling to lock this last one out, and he's feeling it, feeling the pain after this one. So this is going to be my first working set. The one thing that you'll probably notice is my lockout, it's probably really soft. I'm trying not to waste energy on my lockout, so the second that I feel that my glutes are pulled through, I just let go and bring it back down, because I don't want to waste anything while going through this. And you can see between each rep, I'm having to readjust those straps, because again, those are thicker straps for me, and I think I need to adjust that. Because of Tucker's rough night, this is going to be his second and last set. Tucker's a really good grinder when it comes to deadlifting and grinding through lifts, and that's exactly what he does here. I'm barking at him in the back, trying to get him hyped up to finish this last set. And he puts in a really good effort. You can see his shoulders leaking forward really hard, which is making this lockout pretty difficult for him. And he ends up going to the exact same position he did on set 1. Now, be sure to remember that these are isometric deadlifts, so that means there has to be a pause in them. Being very, very, very adamant about pausing right below the knee every time. You want to be quick off the floor and put all your focus into maintaining your form at that pause, and then giving everything you got to lockout. This is my third and final set. This probably was the worst set overall, because Tucker was out, so I didn't have that motivation with me, and I was like basically the last man standing in this training session. Rep 2 was slow, and I knew rep 3 was going to be a bear to finish out, and that's exactly what happened, as my shoulder started leaking forward as well. As you can see by my cameraman asking me how it was. And it felt like complete shit. So next for our accessory, we are using the safety squat bar. We're doing these beltless just because we're going wide stance into a box for these. This is a great way to build hip strength, glute strength, hamstring strength, and trunk stability. It's going to help your lower back. As you can see, when I go down, my hips are moving horizontally, okay? But yes, the squat is vertical, but my main concern is my hips moving front to back to do this movement. This bar is meant to pull you forward, so keeping a stable trunk is a huge, huge component for this movement. On to day 4, and our final day, this is going to be a medium day, so there's going to be more volume in these days during my training than the rest of the days. It's basically a bodybuilding bro day, which everybody loves. We got regular bench to a 2 board, and I believe our set rep scheme is 3 sets of 6 reps. This is where I get to push myself a little bit. The bands that you see down on the bench, these benches are a little slick, especially with having a lot of leg drive. I'll slide all over the place, so these bands help me stay in one spot and dig really hard into the bench. So like I was saying before, it's to a 2 board. We use the bench blocks, which have different holes on different sides of the blocks, which allow you to use a 1 board, 2 board, 3 board, or 4 board. And again, we are using the 2 board today. This is my last and final set. You can see that I'm starting to get fatigued by the end of these reps. And you can also see my stability in my elbows when I do start to flare when I get out of position. I really, really like digging my traps into the bench. It keeps me in a stable position. And just notice the tension on my legs that I keep. I never want the tension in my legs to leave. It's always there. It's always pressing and creating that leg drive. So take a look at the elbows. They're staying pretty stable, and a few of the times you'll see it shift out of the way because I lose tightness in my lats. And especially to a 2 board, your lats are going to be your main support systems when you're bringing that weight down and pressing it up at that range of motion. For more information and tips, check out my YouTube channel, or you can also find more information at mbsfitness.net.